All right, let's talk about some best practices and tips. Tip number one, select the right force sensor. So as you can see, there are many different types that can be used for these types of lifting applications. And it's important to kind of take into account, what force is going to be measured, what kind of accuracy is needed, the dimensions, what's the environmental conditions. And so, proper planning ahead of time really can help you so that you don't have trouble, when you're in the middle of trying to use the sensor. Tip number two, proper installation will define your application success. This is so true, especially when using, products like load pins. Load pins appear to be, pretty simple, and they are. But there's a real technique if you use the manuals that we have on our website to putting them in place and applying the load in the proper location to get the best results, right? Of course, in a load pin's case, you have to locate it so that the directional arrow, is in the direction of the loading. And, so all these kind of tips are in the different manuals or installation instructions for the product that you're purchasing. So if you can't locate it, feel free to contact an application engineer to help you. Tip number three, calibrate the force sensor regularly, especially in safety situations. Very, very important. Recommended once a year, but it depends, right? If you're doing something that during the lift, something happened that was, load shifted and put an unusual shock on the load cell, and you're questioning whether something happened to that load cell or to that load shackle or load pin, we recommend that you get that in right away for an evaluation. And if it's a critical situation, you should really have a backup sensor nearby, because you don't want to shut down your operation because you didn't have a backup piece of equipment there. Next slide. Based on each use case, instrumentation can make all the difference. This is true, right? I mean, if we're talking about using a 1200 series or an 1100 series because the precision is important in your lifting application, then you need to have an instrument that matches up, something like a 9325. Of course, if you're doing wireless, you'll want to make sure you have all the proper instruments you need to, if you need a relay module to set alarms, you got to make sure you have that. If you need to record it, you need a WTS BS4 or BS3 USB base station. You need to make sure you have that instrumentation so you can log and graph it on your PC. So again, that's all about the planning process. Just make sure that you think of all those things before you do it, and maybe even do a walkthrough. That way you place your PO, you get all the equipment you need. We'll calibrate it here all together so it works the way it's supposed to, and you're just focused on making your installation into your application. And tip number five, always do it with safety in mind. Keith brought up some really great points, and some of this stuff we just don't think about ahead of time. So again, part of the planning process, can my load shift? Have I taken everything into account? Did I, mark the load points in the structure I'm trying to move? Have I taken every step? Is it in a hazardous environment, so I need special equipment? Just keep all those things in mind, and then get the proper equipment that matches. It's, we have some customers that come to us and say, 3 times overload is fine for my application. We have other customers that come to us that say, we need 5 times overload. And so we address whatever the customer's need is. It's just a case of you being able to convey that to us. We can get you a product that'll match your need. Next slide.